Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here, and I'm welcoming, as usual, John Lenhart, my hero. Hi John.
Hi.
Today we're talking about flow again, and it's the third in our series of flow, and today we're going to introduce creativity, because creativity, when we're being creative, literally we are in flow. That is us bringing what's inside outside without thinking about it.
Right. So we did this series on leadership a while ago, one of my favorite series, just a two-parter. And leadership, people have called flow the essence of leadership. Flow is really how you lead others. And one of the attributes of leaders is they have these creative or these great ideas.
Yeah.
So how do you have a great idea or a creative idea? Your unconscious has modeled everything out. It's 90% of your brain. It has the answer. You're trying to find the answer consciously. So the way to be creative is to state out loud what you want to solve. So I want to figure out how to handle this issue. And then, and this is the conjunctive, you put your brain on anything other than that topic.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're intentionally weakening your conscious brain from that topic so your unconscious can bring up an idea to you. And then what happens is you have this epiphany. Someone says or does something and all of a sudden it hits you. You usually can't trace where it came from. And that's the proof that these ideas come unconsciously, because when you talk about like Newton with gravity, there's more than one story of how he figured out gravity. Why? Because the answer came unconsciously, and then someone tried to consciously say, how did you figure that out? And he answered with something that wasn't the truth. His unconscious tweaked him, but he didn't have a better answer. And then over time, he goes, well, maybe it was this. So all these great ideas are coming from the unconscious, and it's this moment of creativity. And you can do this. I know people who do this through sleep. I know a guy who said his mom used to say to him when he was growing up, whatever problem you have, tell me about it, and I'll have it for you in the morning. I won't be able to figure it out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it when I wake up. Well, when you sleep, you flow during sleep. You have to give up control, and your unconscious works it out and tells it to you. So you could solve one problem a day if you knew how to do that through sleep, or you could solve a problem all day long if you know how to flow.
Yeah. And just while you're talking about sleep there, this is why I believe women find it harder to sleep than men, because they're trying to sleep and they're trying to solve all the problems of the day of today and then the problems of tomorrow and next week, and they can't switch off. So I do totally feel you on that. Now, just while you were talking on the unconscious and everything having the where it is that it's meant to come from, before I chose to write my book, I said, I'm going to write a book. And I said it out loud, and I said it to my little girl's mum, and I said, I'm going to write my book. And she said, what are you going to write your book on? I said, I don't actually know. And then it wasn't until the next day that I was going through a meditation with myself, and I got the book, and I got all the chapters, every single chapter, and I was like, oh, and I had to get straight. I even stopped the meditation to get to that piece of paper and write it all down. And then that's what's allowed me to take it in. So what you said there, I can literally prove, because I had no idea. Everyone's like, are you going to write an autobiography? And I was like, who's going to want to know about me? And it's not going to be a bestseller. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm just a guy. So I need to give them something that's good for them. And what's the problems in the world? And the unconscious brought everything up. And it was absolutely spot on to what you just said.
Right. So meditation's a form of flow. Sleep is a form of flow. In fact, I read a book on sleep where they called sleep a deep cerebral meditation. And this is how you're accessing the unconscious. But in order to do it, you have to weaken the conscious. You can't
Yeah.
sit there and think about it. So I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show House. It was in America.
Yeah, we've got it here. I've watched a couple of episodes.
Hugh Laurie, he's from over there.
Yeah.
He's the lead person in it. Every episode is essentially what happens is somebody's got a problem, and he consciously works with a team to try to solve it. And then he spends the whole episode consciously trying to solve it until he gets so frustrated he weakens his conscious brain, and then he gets distracted and he focuses on something other than solving the problem, and then the problem gets solved by his unconscious. Every episode is what we're talking about right now, is him consciously trying to solve it until his unconscious solves it. So that's, and if you've watched the episode more than once, if you know what the problem is, they are giving you unconscious clues during the episode. So one of the reasons why you can rewatch it is if you know the solution is a certain issue, you'll notice early on they'll show you the solution. That this guy's got a toothpick, lodged in his esophagus or whatever, or in part of his body. You see this guy with a toothpick all the time, and it's telling your unconscious brain knows the answer. In fact, House's unconscious brain knows the answer. So I like the joke, if they had given me, the series House to produce, I could have done it in 30 seconds. Every episode would have been 30 seconds. Every episode would have been, they come in, they bring in the issue, and House would go, hey, so what's the problem? This kid is shortness of breath. He's got this issue. He's got this issue. He'd list them all and he'd go, we want to solve this, right? I want to solve this. And then they would all of a sudden distract themselves. Hey, what is that over there? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, he's got polio. Ta-da. Wouldn't be much of an episode, but that's what's happening in every episode. He's got to go through this process of weakening his conscious brain so he can have the creative or epiphany moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's taken back to that sense of switching it off. I mean, people find it so hard to switch off because they're too busy trying to solve the matter or get to where the next place of happiness is, or they've got to concentrate on their next step of their routine of all these things. And this is why I believe most people struggle, again, because they're not flowing, they're trying too hard to get to where they want to go.
So what's the best way to put your brain on something else? Because that's what it takes. It takes this ability to, I want to solve this thing, and now I have to put my brain away from it and give up control.
Yeah.
Well, you can't say don't think about it, because you're 3 times more likely to think about it. You can't do a don't. So what's the best way to do it? The best way is to create a game. So what I like to say is the 2 highest brain abilities a person can have is improv, which we'll talk about in this series. It's something you and I do all the time when we do these shows. Okay. And the second biggest brain ability is the ability to create a game. If you know how to improv and create games, there's nothing I can teach you after that, because those are the 2 highest brain abilities. So what I wanted to do was talk about, there are 4 types of games. The best way to create a game is to know what kind of games are there. So the first type of game is called Aliyah, and these are games of chance. So if you think about bingo or roulette or anything that's just a game of chance, that juices us. That's a game of chance. And let me show you how I use something like this. I got a call from a professional woman who was just losing her energy. And she had 5 tasks she needed to do. And what happened was she called me up and she said, John, I got these 5 things. I have no energy to do them. And I said, okay. I said, take 5 slips of paper and write a task, one of the 5 tasks on each slip of paper. Now take your coffee cup, fold up the piece of paper, throw them in a coffee cup, and say out loud, I am going to do whichever one I draw first. This is a game of chance. And then pick one and just go through it. I got a call later that day. She goes, John, I got all 5 of them done and I have more energy. That's a way I made a game up in the moment, and it caused her to have more energy. So that's one of the things, is when you play games, you are flowing. If somebody says, oh, flow doesn't make sense, you disprove that every time you play a game.
And you get this with Monopoly, you get this with Twister, you get it with any game at all. That's why you have fun when you play games. So I totally understand exactly where you're coming from here. When you're playing a game, you're having fun. And just a fun fact, we had about maybe 10, 12 years ago, we had a casino open up in Glasgow city centre, and it was called Alea Casino. And I didn't understand where the name came from, and you just totally dropped that bombshell there, and it's brilliant. So Alea Casino in Glasgow, because it's all a game of chance. Fantastic, John.
Perfect. The second one is as awesome is these, I think these are all Latin terms, is Illinics. And these are things of vertigo where we lose our balance. So those are games, whether you're riding a roller coaster, whether you're dancing, whether you're drinking. So now you think about our last episode, and we talked about why is it so hard for women to flow? Well, because the first step is to get down to one thought, and women have 5 thoughts. Well, why do women like to dance a lot more than men?
Because they get better balance.
Because you can't dance unless you're down to one thought.
Ah, right. Okay,
So
that makes
what
better
I
sense.
say is like, I like to go, I'm dancing, right? No, I'm tight. I'm conscious. You cannot dance unless you let go. There's cultures that used to dance. The men used to dance before they went to war, before they battled, because dancing puts you in flow.
Yep.
But when people tell me, oh, flow doesn't exist and stuff, and then they're dancing, it's like, what do you think you're doing? To dance, it's the act of flow. We talked about the 6 steps of flow in the last episode. You have to be conscious and then let go, and then be conscious and let go. And there's an energy to dancing because you're doing that. Guys are like, I'm already at one thought. I don't need to dance. Women need to dance in order to have that moment where they're getting energy in order to flow. What about alcohol? Sometimes one drink, it weakens your conscious brain.
Yep.
One drink, what does a drink do? A drink takes, my conscious brain, let's say, is at 100%. When I take a drink, have a drink of alcohol, my conscious brain goes down to 80%.
Yeah, and they talk about alcohol. Sorry to interrupt. They talk about alcohol is why people tell the truth while they're drunk, because their conscious brain that they've been holding back for so long that they let everything go. So yes, 100%.
Right, but this is how people get creative.
Yep.
It's a proven fact that a glass of alcohol makes people more creative.
Yep.
Absolutely, because what is it doing? It's weakening the conscious brain. There are people out there who say they're flow experts and they're talking about the future of flow, and they talk about different devices and different pills. And all of those devices and pills are completely intended to weaken the conscious brain. I'm showing you how to weaken your conscious brain so you give up control, unless you want to have it done from the outside. But that's why a drink will do that. Now, 2 drinks, because one drink feels amazing because it's going to get you closer to being able to flow. 2 drinks is going to feel really amazing because now you weaken your conscious brain. It's probably down to about 60%, and you're going to really be able to flow. Well, obviously, 3 drinks is going to make you amazing, right? Well, now here's the problem. I like to say drinks are like donuts. 2 are okay, and 3 is always a bad idea.
Yeah.
So now you've had 3 drinks, and the 3rd drink is not better, but your brain's down to 40%. But with a 40% conscious brain, you go, that the 3rd drink is just an outlier. The 4th one will make up for everything. And now you're done.
And you're distracted.
Yeah, and now you're drunk, and now it's a mess. And that's how we take ourselves down. Drinking is weakening your conscious brain. It absolutely is. Jonathan likes to talk about when you drink, you become more your why. We see your how, intangible driver. When you drink, your why starts coming out more and more. So anything that weakens that, and that's why women will participate in a lot of these Illinics or vertigo type of games, because it's one of the only ways for them to weaken a very, very powerful conscious brain in order to be able to flow.
That's amazing. And now that it makes total sense. As we all know, I've told my story before that I used to perform and I used to dance. And it was always, well, it was always women that came to the performances anyway, but the women used to have so much fun and you could actually see it in their face. That's why it goes stress free. And especially at the start of the night, they would have a few drinks, maybe one or two, and the party would be in full flow. That's why they say party and flow. And then what would happen is they would take advantage of that. They would drink too much, and that's when the drama would start, the tears and snotters, these type of things. So it makes, again, putting it into context of life, 100%, John.
Right. So the third one is called mimesis. And this is role playing. We talked about improv earlier. This is improv, but this is every board game. So if you think about what a board game is, and you mentioned Monopoly. So what am I doing? I'm a landowner and I'm trying to bankrupt everybody else.
Yeah.
I play Risk. I'm the head of this country and I'm trying to take over the world. Every board game is actually role playing. And if you think about a game and a board game, we talked about this before too, is the first thing you open that new board game up, the first thing you want to know is what are the rules of the game?
Yeah.
Those are the limitations. We think about a conjunctive. Flow is getting in the conjunctive. You need a limitation and then all this freedom.
Yeah.
The rules of the game are the limitation. We need those in order to flow. So the same thing happens with anything in life is that in order to flow, you got to have this limitation. And then your goal is to be as creative as possible away from that. But we just don't say, what are the limitations of the game? We say, what are the rules of the game? But board games put us in flow, like you said, and it's because it has a limitation. And then our creativity is trying to work against that limitation to be better than somebody else.
Yeah. Now, if we talk about the rules, if we didn't have the limitations at certain parts of our life, I could go in and I could take all the money out of the Monopoly game and sit it in front of me and say, you're not getting any, I win. So we do need limitations in life, whether it's a game or whether it's in real life as well. We all need our limitations and to understand them as well, definitely.
Right. So improv is one of my favorite things to do. And that's what you and I learned. The first show we ever did, we have it all scripted out. And then after that, we went, let's just say the topic and just go from there. And so these are always been improv. You're an improv and a flow guy. I'm a flow guy. I love to create flow games for other people in this mimesis category. And for example, there was a couple that was dating and neither of them liked to go shopping for food. Neither of them did. So it just made a bad situation because they got to go get food, right? They're going to go shop. Yeah. And so what happened was I said to them, next time you go shopping, see if you can both learn something about each other that you didn't know before you put your hand on the handle of the car. So from the time you walk in the store to the time you get to your car, the goal, the limitation is learn something about each other. Or the limitation was by the time you get to the car, the goal to win was to learn something about each other you didn't know. And shopping became one of their favorite things because they're not thinking about shopping. You don't have to consciously think about shopping. I was taking their brain to this other goal and they unconsciously shopped. They had a list. They just like you look at your cell phone and are unconscious, you can shop from a list and be unconscious and be at 160. And they had that. So that's the thing is, can you turn anything into a game? I'm Willy Wonka. I love walking into these classrooms and turning anything these kids are dealing with into a game because it's where you put your brain before you do anything. If you know how to make everything into a game, you can put your brain in a spot that everything is fun, everything is flow, and everything gives you energy and happiness.
This is why I tell people to have, and clients that come to me, I tell them, they say, I can't be bothered going to take the kids to school. I can't be bothered sitting in the house anymore. I can't be bothered doing this. And I'm like, have fun with it. If you don't like it, you're telling yourself you don't like it. You're being too conscious and you're going to pick every bit of bad vibe up from your thought. Try making it more fun now. I don't get to the point where I make up games for them. That's next level stuff. But I do tell them to try and have fun as much as they can, So if they're having fun, if it's making the kids dinner and the kids aren't playing, get them to join in. You mix that bowl, you wash that plate, you do, you set the table and who can do it the quickest. We can always have fun in terms of what it is that we're doing. It creates more energy and it allows us to enjoy whatever we're doing even better at the end of the outcome.
Right. So when the lockdown began over here last March, people started stressing out over shopping because they had to go get food, but they didn't want to catch the COVID and everything. So what happened was with the school system I was working with and with these other, 100 and some people that I was working with last March, I put out a little post and I called it Sleep and Flow. The two things that hurt your immune system more than anything is lack of sleep. If you get 2 less hours of sleep at night, your immune system's down 50%. And if you have anxiety, your immune system's down. And the way to deal with anxiety is to flow. And what I did was I helped all these people learn how to sleep better, and I taught them how to flow in anxious moments. And the first example was shopping. And I wrote this little write-up on how to shop like a ninja. I basically said, when you go to the supermarket, you're a ninja. And here's your objective, and here's what you're trying to do. And a moment that was making everybody anxious and yelling and screaming and going off now turned into a game, something that was fun, something people had energy. And that's one of the reasons why I believe that we helped over 100 people have a great 2020, even though it was a terrible year. They had all this energy as they were sleep and flow the entire year. So the last game is called Agon, and it's a competition. So any game where we both have the same whatever, we play in chess, we have the same pieces, or checkers, we have the same pieces, or tennis, we both have a racket. Anything where we both have the same exact thing and we're competing each other is a competition or Agon. So you notice you can combine these. You can make a competition out of a mimesis or a competition out of an aliyah. You can do that. But that's it. There's only 4 things. So whenever you're trying to create a game, you can look at this and go, do I want to make this a chance situation? Do I want to make this a role playing? Do I want to make this a straight competition and we got points? I walk in the classroom and the minute some kid answers a question, I go 10 points. And every kid in that classroom goes, points? What are the points for? And it's like, here we go. It's a game. Now all of a sudden this game, now they're paying attention to me. Now they want points. You can make everything a game.
Yeah. And when you make everything a game, life becomes easier, you flow, you become happier, and and it's that way you're not consciously trying to do anything. It just starts to kind of go with. And I say to people all the time, life is too short to be so conscious and trying so hard all the time. Try and let go, or not even, don't even try, because if you're trying to let go, you're trying still to do it. Just let go, and and just go on with it, and really just focus on the fun side of it. You'll still get the work done as long as you're having fun.
Right. So I want to end this with an example of exactly what you just said, because we talked about creativity, and you're most creative when you let go. So if you're flowing and you're doing that, what'll happen is these ideas will come up, things will happen. That's a lot of how I, ended up with the mind and brain model, was being really creative. So a classic example is Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison is known as one of the greatest inventors of all time. He had all these ideas, super, super smart. So everybody's like, well, see, there's a guy who was creative and he was super conscious. Well, what Thomas Edison used to do to be creative was he used to put this like metal bowl next to his chair. He'd put his feet up and he'd have these 2 metal balls in his hand. And in the after, he would try to say, he'd go, I'm trying to solve some sort of problem. And then he would lay there, put his hand over the bowl, and he would fall asleep. And when he fell asleep, he'd drop the balls. It would go in the bowl, make a sound. He'd wake up and he'd immediately write down what his unconscious brain had solved.
That's
or what it was thinking of. So here's a guy who's super conscious, who went through a lot of rigmarole to access his unconscious brain, but that's all he's doing. When you have a model for the mind and the brain, you can explain how and why all these people were able to do it. And then you can come up with your own process, your own unique process for flow, which we call your flowcess.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where we want to take everybody. So thank you so much again, John, and thank you for coming on. And I hope people really start to have more fun in their lives, because it's always brighter when we do so. And I will speak to you next week. Thanks very much. Cheers, John.
Bye.